This morning, a buyout bonanza in the elite college football world.
And he's taken down!
11 head coaches for some of the country's biggest programs have been fired since the start of the season. But don't feel too bad for them. LSU's Brian Kelly receiving a massive estimated buyout of $53 million. And Penn State's James Franklin is estimated at $49 million. All told, universities owe about $185 million in contract buyouts, essentially paying coaches millions not to work.
This is really the new reality in college football. Money controls everything.
You know, this is just flat out irresponsible reporting, making it seem like it's something to where the fans have no reason to be upset, making it seem like it's because of the transfer portal, alluding to big business and big money being the primary source of the problems that these coaches are having, their inability to be able to maintain the money. The reality is, with all these buyouts, these coaches all have something in common. They were all paid an inordinate amount of money when none of them have really proved anything, and they've never won anything as a head coach. And now they're all being fired. Why? Because they couldn't live up to the massive paydays. Don't pretend that it's now suddenly about coaches and contracts. Does anybody remember the first time Brian Kelly did a university dirty when he was at Cincinnati? Remember that? And instead of completing the task and potentially going undefeated with that football team, he decided to go ahead and take the coaching job at Notre Dame. When he took the coaching job at Notre Dame, he abandoned the kids. They didn't play in that final game against Florida. And then their players went on and said, this is the problem with college football. It's about big coaches and big coaching contracts. It's not about the player anymore. But I guess we're going to forget about that, right? I guess we're going to forget that conversation exists. It's always been like that. Coaches have been getting money for years. Years prior to the NIL, they were getting endorsement deals. They were getting endorsement deals with Adidas, with Nike, with Reebok. And then they would put that apparel on their kids and they would wear it around for free. Meanwhile, the coach was getting how much money from Nike to convince their kids to wear that stuff? And as far as the money goes, none of these coaches lived up to what they were paid. If you give Brian Kelly $100 million, you are expecting to at least be competitive in big games. And you are expecting, especially with the expansion of the CFP, to be there in a system that specifically favors the SEC. And your winning record since you are LSU against teams in the top 25 is 5-11. You're done. We gave you $100 million. You're done. You can't win. You had a Heisman Trophy winning quarterback, and you still couldn't compete. He loses his mind on everybody on the sidelines. He's petitioned against Congress to make it to where these athletes can't get paid. Why? Because when somebody's making more money than him, or maybe the equivalent, or even just a little bit of money, suddenly he can't manipulate them into sticking around at his university anyway. You can't stockpile five-star recruits anymore. You have to actually be a ball coach. And by the way, anybody who's at the JUCO level will tell you we've been dealing with this for years. We have to win knowing that we've got a kid for 1-2 years tops. We're lucky if we get that second year out of a kid. They are constantly reeling them out. At your level, you might get a guy for 3, 4, 5 years, maybe even longer now. If you can't convince people to stay, that's a you problem. That is a coaching problem. James Franklin literally had over a decade to win something. How much time does somebody need to prove that they are a winner? How many returning starters were on that Penn State roster this season? That's why they were expected to be good. Instead, they were terrible. He didn't get fired because Penn State woke up one morning and decided, well, it's 1 or 2 losses. That didn't happen. Hugh Freeze did not get fired because of 1 or 2 losses. Nobody got fired because of 1 or 2 losses. It just didn't happen. None of these coaches that have been let go recently have won anything of significance. Trent Dilfer didn't win anything. Sure, it was entertaining to watch him talk about the players and, the stuff. And that was great sidebar action. That was only when they won. And guess how often that was? And then what do you've got? You've got Sark going out because he's scared now, right? Because you see what's going on in Texas. So now he's scared. Where's everybody going to pull these coaches from? Broham, listen, there is a defensive coordinator somewhere. There is an offensive coordinator somewhere. There is a special teams coach out there lurking around. Does anybody remember the Philadelphia Eagles head coach who went from coaching a high school football team to being a Super Bowl winning coach in the NFL? There is somebody out there somewhere that can actually get the job done. Now, I will say this. Bob Stoops, who I always felt was an overrated coach, had one of the greatest quotes of all time. And he said, the thing about winning is people think it's easy and it's not. Now, that is the most significant quote that I think I have ever heard in terms of anything. And the fact of the matter is, if anybody wants to say that right there should be enough to maybe keep these coaches, I'm not going to say no to that. But every one of those coaches were given a significant amount of time for the most part. Most of those coaches that got fired have been where they are for 4 or 5 years, some even longer. And even then, when I give you $100 million, I mean, come on, man. Brian Kelly left Notre Dame in November to go and take a job, even though he hadn't proved anything, but getting blown out in the college football playoff and getting blown out in the national championship game. That's it. Anytime he was there to face a good team, his teams flailed. And I tell people all the time, and this is the bottom line to all of this, a coach, do you understand? The way a coach is eventually becomes reflective of their team. Do we understand that? A team eventually reflects their coach, and that is all there is to it. I'm Drew Duncan. Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram is all at Drew Duncan Radio. Play the Smoke by Drew Duncan, the Drew Duncan Sports Show, wherever you're listening to broadcast. Everybody stay safe, take care of yourselves, and have a wonderful rest of your night and or day.